The goal was to get the state representatives and the state senators to push the Amtrak passenger rail in Kansas. And I thought, oh, this would be very, 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 very easy. You know, everybody would agree with this. No. The Secretary of Transportation had a different idea. Even though everybody in the House and on the Senate, we supported it wholeheartedly, you still have to be able to sell the executive branch. And if you don't have all those minds coming together to work together, it is very, very, very difficult. Right now it's in the process, but it's moving slowly. But even though the House, the legislative branch, is supportive of it, without the support of the executive branch, sometimes legislation that you want to see passed, it can be held up and even hidden. So this is something to know. That's one of the things that I did not know even after being elected is actually going through it, that even though your legislator or you may want to try to push a bill and you're actually to get it through, sometimes they have to battle with the legislative branch, the executive branch. So that's one of the lessons that I learned, but you still got to try. As far as like getting a piece of legislation, as I said before, it can be organizations just like this one, where people come together and say that, hey, we need to make a change in our government. We want this law, or we want that law, or we want to stop this or stop that. It starts by just an idea. And from there, you would, for example, you would give it to your legislator, your senator, or your state representative, and that person can get the bill drafted and get it filed. And then after that, it has to be heard in different committees, on the Senate side and on the House side. I'm on 3 different committees. I'm on the Utilities Committee, which affects all the rates, for instance. The coal fire plant, which took up a lot of our time this past session. I'm on the Health and Human Services Committee, which is my second most favorite committee. In that committee, basically, we listen to all types of health issues. Like the smoking ban, it came through there. It was like 3 days of testimony. When people, they want to get, say for instance, an organization like this Lupus organization, Lupus of America, if you all were to get together and decide you want to pass a legislation that says that, hey, lupus patients shouldn't be discriminated against, just for an example, you would submit it to me or someone else. They would take it, it would have to go through a committee. Chances are it would probably either go through education or a health committee. In those committees, they have power too. Particularly the person that is the chairperson of those committees. They will debate that bill. I mean, they will tear it apart. And on our different committee, I think we have like 12 or 13 different people on that committee. When we did the smoking ban, we had people lined up for days. I think it was like 4 or 5 days. I mean, the room was packed. Different people, and there was more pro people for the smoking ban than there was against it. They came, they gave testimony. You had people like myself that would get up and say, hey, this affects me and my children, you know, and you need to ban this. You have business owners coming in there saying that, hey, I want to keep the smoking because, you know, it'll affect my profit if my clients aren't able to smoke. And then you would have PACs, which stands for, they're actually like lobbyists, but PACs are usually like AT&T or Westar. They have their employees that come together where they put money together in order to try to influence and lobby the legislature. They will come in PACs and they will get up there and be for or against a particular issue or bill. And then you have lobbyists, paid lobbyists. One of the things I knew, but I did not really know until experience it, when we're sitting in those committees, every committee that I'm on, like I said, the first one is utility and then the health and human services, and I'm on transportation and safety budgets, where it's an arm of appropriations, and we actually approve the money for the budget for the state of Kansas. Those lobbyists, they fill up the room. Like a room like this, it would be probably 99% lobbyists and PACs there. And what they're trying to do is trying to get to know all of us. They're trying to persuade us to vote the way they want us to vote. And at the same time, you have very few people, what I call the actual John Doe, Jane Doe, that are the ones that are, ultimately affected, we don't see them a whole bunch. Usually when there's like a state day advocacy of, like say for instance, like health care or a smoking ban or Meals on Wheels or seniors or disabled people, they will come up for like one day. And you will see them running around the legislature, trying to talk to the different representatives on the Senate and the House side. But for the most part, what we see is a room full of lobbyists. Paid lobbyists, a lot of them. There are some that aren't paid, but for the most part, they are paid. And it's usually larger organizations that can afford to have that. And believe me, the influence is intense. I mean, you cannot leave out the room without a lobbyist trying to give you some information or calling you or emailing you. So that's just, it's just the reality of it. It's sad but true. We need more people and more faces like ourselves up there making a difference. And then after it goes to those committees, and the committee decides whether or not they want to approve or not approve a bill, then it goes back to like the House chambers on the state representative side, and we have to vote on it collectively as a group, or it says here assembly, but it's actually the House floor where we actually decide, okay, 125 of us and 2/3 of it has to pass in order for a bill to go through. And then say for instance, like we approved, like on the smoking ban, it didn't go through. Everybody knows, but it's getting ready to be a big issue coming around in January. And so what's happening now, I'm getting calls already from constituents, lobbyists, and PACs stating their position and trying to get me to vote for a certain way. But after it comes to our assembly and we decide whether or not we're going to approve it or not approve it, if we approve it, then we have to send it over to the Senate, and they have to start their process all over again. It has to go through their committee, their Health and Services type of committee, and they have to vote on it, and then they have to go through the Senate Assembly where they have to vote on it. And then after each chamber approves that they like this bill or they dislike this bill and they make all the different changes to it, then it goes to our governor, and our governor has to put the last seal of approval on it. And if for some reason he doesn't, the different chambers have to be able to veto it, but we all have to come up with 2/3 votes to override the governor's vote. It seems kind of simple, but it is a complex and time-consuming process. And, it can be kind of boring, very, very boring. But that's just the way it's not just the Kansas way of doing process of legislation. I think it's kind of very similar to that all over the United States. So just because you have an idea, it's going to take more than an idea to get it voted through legislation. So just to kind of give you an idea on what we can do, particularly like a Lupus organization, if we want to be able to do something, it shows a lot of collectiveness among people, and I shouldn't say it's not easy. It just has to be very organized and very strategic. I find that those people that are contacting you, a lot of times what they're trying to do, they're trying to build a relationship with you. As far as like the lobbyists and the PACs, they're already starting now, like they contribute to our campaign, because a lot of them are up for re-election next year. The state representatives are up for re-election every other year, and the senators are up for election every 4 years. So far, this year we haven't even gotten into next year, and I'm already receiving contributions from different PACs and different lobbyists. But they need that in order to get elected. And they're not saying right now when they're sending those contributions that, oh, I want you to support something, but they're just trying to build a relationship with you. And usually, usually they have a vested interest on something. And I know I'm going to find next year those people that send me contribution checks, they're going to be trying to get me to vote the way they want me to vote. Before I got elected, I had a lot of people, I can say a lot of organizations and lobbyists and so forth, they were like, they gave me $100 here, $100 there, whatever. And then when I get into the legislature and I find out they want me to vote for a coal-fired plant, vote for or against, And then you find that if you don't vote their way, of course, they're not going to give you the contribution the next year, which is that's